Oh, the weather is awful. Look at it. Maybe I do need that off-road mode after all. There's a good chance you won't know what this car is. From the front end, it looks similar to the new Seat Leon, but take a walk around and you'll note the larger shape and a higher ride height. You may have also spotted there isn't actually a Seat badge in sight, and there is a good reason for that. This is not a Seat. No, 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 no. This is the Cupra Formentor. This is the latest car to come from Cupra, the performance division of Seat, and unlike the Cupra Leon and the Cupra Ateca, this car is exclusive to Cupra, so you can't buy the Formentor as a more humdrum Seat. No, you can only get this from Cupra directly. And this car, the idea is it sits between the Leon and the Ateca, so the Cupra themselves describe it as a coupe crossover. Now, you may wonder what Cupra means. In fact, it is short for Cup Racing, and it has been the flagship moniker for Seat's performance cars for quite a long time. I myself own a Mark II Leon Cupra, but of course, Cupra has now spread its wings and is now its own brand. As much as this car is exclusive to Cupra, it does of course have many bits from the Volkswagen Automotive Group's parts bin, and that is by no means a bad thing, or indeed an insult. So under the bonnet I've got the Volkswagen Automotive Group's Old Faithful, the EA888 engine, also used in cars such as the Golf R and the Audi S3. In this car, it kicks out 310 horsepower along with 400 Newton meters of torque. If you prefer that to pound-feet, that is 295. This power is mated to a 7-speed DSG gearbox, and the power is fed to all four wheels using Cupra's 4-drive system. As you would expect, the performance is pretty potent. 62 miles per hour is dealt with in just 4.9 seconds, which I think is very respectable, bearing in mind this is a crossover that weighs over 1,600 kilograms. The top speed, as you would expect, is limited to 155 miles per hour. I've got a choice of driving modes in the Formentor, so I've got normal, individual, off-road, I don't know who's going to be taking this off-road, but you never know, sport, and of course, Cupra. Now, as you can imagine, I've spent most of my time in Cupra, because, well, why wouldn't you? This, of course, sharpens the throttle, makes the suspension more taut, and makes the steering heavier, and it just dials everything up. And when you have this car in normal mode, you may wonder what all the fuss is about. It's very easygoing, it's very kind of civilized, but when you put it into Cupra mode, all hell breaks loose. The engine notes becomes more aggressive. Let me just back off and I can give it the beans. Now, to my ears at least, the engine note doesn't sound too far away from Audi's 5-cylinder engine. Now, that may just be me, but it's got that kind of 5-pot warble about it, that 5-pot growl. It sounds fantastic. And yes, I'm under no illusions. There is a good chance there's probably a sound imposer or some form of audio trickery, but hey, I don't care. It sounds fantastic. The way how the Cupra Formentor drives is very impressive. The throttle response is sharp. Yes, the gearbox can be a little bit slow to wake up sometimes. So for example, if I put my foot down, there we go. It just takes a few moments for it to kind of wake up, but whether you use the paddles or leave the gearbox to its own devices, it works very well. It's slick, smooth, and pretty seamless, although I would argue that the Audi S3 I've got this week is a bit smoother and a bit sharper, I'd say. I think it's about time we hunt down some corners. Now, as you would expect with a crossover carrying more weight and a higher centre of gravity, you do get a bit of roll in the corners, but the Formentor still handles very well. There's a decent amount of grip on offer thanks to the 4-drive system and of course the Bridgestone Taranta tyres. It certainly inspires confidence. The steering is well weighted and it is direct. One thing I will say, I would want the brakes to be just a bit sharper, a bit stronger compared to the Audi S3 I'm testing this week. There is a twin test coming, don't worry. Compared to the S3, the brakes in this car, I wouldn't say they feel spongy because that would be rude. They just don't have the same bite. This car doesn't have a mechanical limited slip differential, but it does have the Volkswagen Automotive Group's XDS, which is kind of like an electronic limited slip diff. Not quite as effective, of course, but it does a decent enough job. Now, in case you want your Cupra Formentor to be a little less spicy, if this is a bit too vindaloo for you, you can have it with less powerful engine. So you can have it with the 1.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine that offers 150 horsepower, the same engine I had in the A3 Saloon earlier this year. Or you can have the e-hybrid, which makes use of a 1.4 litre turbocharged petrol engine and of course an electric powertrain. The Formentor is a very pretty thing. It's aggressive, but it's got delicate creases. It's a really smart looking car. The front end looks like a lay-on. That's by no means a bad thing. And I think the overall package, it looks fantastic. It's a really, really stylish car. So whoever designed it, I take my hat off to you. I would applaud you, but, well, I'm driving. The price tag is pretty attractive too. It's around £40,000. More specifically, the Formentor in this trim level, the VZ2, starts from £39,870. And that does put it around the same kind of price as a Volkswagen Golf R, but this is bigger, more practical, and comes with more standard equipment, so it does balance out. The Cupra Formentor is available in a few trim levels, but for the sake of this video and to keep things a bit more simple, I'm going to focus on the VZ2 and the VZ3. The VZ2, the trim level shown in this video, starts from £39,870 and features standard goodies such as LED lights, 19-inch alloys, tinted rear windows, keyless entry, power tailgate, leather seats, heated front seats, 3-zone climate control, front and rear parking sensors, reversing camera, digital cockpit, 12.3-inch touchscreen, DAB radio, Bluetooth, smartphone connectivity, navigation, dynamic chassis control, heated steering wheel, electrically adjustable driver seat, adaptive cruise control, wireless phone charging, as well as a good host of safety systems. The VZ3 starts from £42,240 and that gives you fancier alloys as well as Brembo brakes. If you're looking at the Cupra Formentor, there is a good chance you're looking for a performance car with added space and practicality. Therefore, with that in mind, let me speak about the boot. Now, if you go for the front-wheel drive version of the Formentor, which incidentally has less power, you do get a boot that offers 450 litres. This has got the 4-drive system, so it's got 4-wheel drive, meaning the boot is a little bit smaller at 420 litres. If you go for the e-hybrid version though, the boot shrinks down again to just 345. This car, as standard, does have a hands-free power tailgate, which normally works, but let's see how I get on. There we go. First time, love it. So yes, as I mentioned, you get 420 litres. The entrance to the boot is wide, it is practical. Yes, there is a little bit of a load lip going into the boot, but loading bigger or heavier items shouldn't be too much of a faff. If you want to load longer items, you can do so because as standard, you do get a ski chute. So if you want to load, well, skis or bits of wood, for example, you can do so. If you want more space, you can, of course, fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you, I don't know. Despite doing as much research as I possibly could, I simply can't find a figure for the boot capacity with the rear seats down. So hopefully I can get that directly from Cupra and dub it as a subtitle. One thing I can tell you is folding down the rear seats is very easy because you've got a lever either side, and before you know it, the rear seats are folded. They don't fold flat, but they should fold flat enough for your needs. Now, in regard to practicality, you've got 2 hooks either side where you can hang up bags of shopping, tether points towards the back of the boot, and get this, as standard, you also get a spare wheel. I know, what a time to be alive, which, let's face it, is a bit of a luxury in modern day vehicles, but if you do want or need a spare wheel, Cupra has you covered. Anyway, I want to get out of this nasty rain, so let's get this down and let me move on to the next thing. It's raining cats and dogs. You wouldn't believe it's June, would you? It's meant to be summer in the UK. Ridiculous. I'm going to write a little complaint. So, time to speak about rear space. As always, the driver's seat has been set for me. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a taller chap. But even so, the space left over is pretty ample, to say the least. Let me step inside, make myself comfortable, which is easy, if I'm going to be honest. So yes, even though I am a taller person, sat behind a taller person's driving setup, I've still got a lot of room left over. I've got plenty of knee room and loads of leg room. Headroom is also more than agreeable as well. So if you do happen to be taller than me, let's say 6'3", 6'4", etc., you should be absolutely fine in the back of the Formentor. I think it would be too much of a squeeze to fit 3 adults though, but 2 adults would be seated in the back with quite a lot of comfort. Of course, if you're more concerned about carrying children, there are ISOFIX points, but what about practicality? Well, practicality in the rear is pretty good. The door bins are of a good size. I can fit in a medium-sized bottle, that is a litre, in case you're wondering. You've got map pockets either side, and in the middle you've got a centre armrest with not 1, not 2, but 3 cup holders. 2 regular sized ones and 1 for an energy drink. You've also got 2 hooks either side where you can hang up clothing, and in regard to comfort, that should be amplified by the fact that you've got 3-zone climate control, and you've got not 1 but 2 charging ports, so those in the rear can charge their smart devices on the go. They are USB Type-C charging ports, which are a bit more cutting edge and a bit more future-proof. Overall, I've got very little to complain about in the back of the Formentor. It is a nice place to be. Okay, so some may find it a little bit dingy because of the dark roof lining, but I'd say it doesn't feel too hemmed in the back. Anyway, let's move on to the front. Like the rear, getting comfortable in the front of the Cupra Formentor should be easy. The driver's seat is electronically adjustable as standard, and it has no less than 3 memory functions, which one may argue is probably one too many, but I'd rather have too many than not enough. Let me step inside, make myself comfortable. As you would expect, the steering wheel adjusts for rake and reach like so. Therefore, getting a comfortable ergonomic driving setup is very easy. Now, I've got my driver's seat set to the lowest to make it feel a bit more sporty, but if you really want to get that proper crossover experience and have that raised, commanding driving setup, you can do so. Give me a few moments. There we go. And as you can see, I'm now fully jacked up, and I've got a more commanding view of the road. But for me, no, this is far too high. My hair's almost touching the roof. So no, back down I go. Going down. In regard to practicality, there is a good amount of it in the front. The door bins can fit in a medium-sized bottle with little complaints, and there's space left over. You've got 2 cup holders in the middle. There are 2 little slots where you can pop the key or perhaps some loose change or some chewing gum. A wireless phone charging pad that comes as standard, and it is slanted down, which will keep your phone in place better. So when you're driving in a more spirited manner, your phone shouldn't fly out and knock someone out. You've got 2 USB Type-C charging ports and a 12-volt socket underneath the centre armrest. There's also storage in here as well, which is pretty good. And last but not least, you do of course get a glove box, which offers a decent amount of space. Overall, the inside of the Cupra Formentor is a nice place to be, and it feels quite bold and unique in here. Don't get me wrong, I'm still not sure on this petrol blue leather and the petrol blue dash, but one thing I can't argue with is the fact that it feels special in here. When you step inside this car, it does genuinely, in my opinion, feel like an occasion, and that's what you want from a performance car, isn't it? I love the steering wheel. Okay, there's far too many buttons on it, but 2 buttons I do like are the engine start and stop button, which is fantastic. It makes it feel like a supercar because it's mounted on the steering wheel and not the centre console or the dash. And you've also got the button for the driving modes, which makes it very easy to access them whilst on the move. So I like the cabin of the Cupra Formentor. It's different, and that is a good thing. As I'm stuck behind a little bit of traffic, let me speak about the more slightly mundane things, but important things such as comfort and refinement. The comfort in the Cupra Formentor is very good. As standard, it comes with the Volkswagen Automotive Group's dynamic chassis control. And to put that into plain English, that means this car has got adaptive dampers. So when you put it into comfort mode, the ride becomes more compliant, more easygoing. But when you put it into sport or Cupra, everything firms up and you're more ready for hard cornering. Refinement isn't too bad, but what I will say is there is quite a bit of road noise coming into the cabin from these 19-inch alloys. Wind noise isn't too bad, I've got no real complaints there. But yes, this isn't the quietest car, particularly on this road surface. It is, yeah, the tyre noise is quite audible. Hopefully you can hear it on my clip-on microphone. Would I say this car is likely to be tiring for a long drive? I don't think so. The seats are very comfortable, they are supportive as well. The front seats are heated. My driver's seat has got electronic adjustability and 3 memory functions. And yeah, the road noise is a bit high, but apart from that, I would say this is an easy car to live with. So far, I've had a lot of good things to say about the Formentor, but I do want to have a bit of a rant. This touchscreen. Yes, it is very nice, and Cupra is very generous by giving you a 12.3 touchscreen as standard. And whilst it looks very pretty to use whilst on the move, it is a faff and it can be downright frustrating. If I want to turn on the heated seats, I have to go on the touchscreen, which... oh, come on. There we go. Is a faff. The climate control is also done via the touchscreen. Everything is pretty much done via the touchscreen, and that is annoying. I like the S3 because that's got physical controls for the climate control, but no, in here I've got touch sensitive panels that just don't work very well. Cupra, I like your touchscreen, it looks beautiful, but I would argue it is style over substance. Pity. Thankfully, you don't have to faff about here for your driving modes because you've got a button on the steering wheel which has got the Cupra badge on it, which, to be honest, I'm still not sure on that Cupra logo. It looks like it should be on a superhero's chest, shouldn't it? Or maybe a Power Ranger. But anyway, I digress. Hit it and you can go through the different driving modes. So just for the sake of testing, I put it into normal, and as you can see, well, hopefully see, you've got blue ambient lighting running around the car. If you put it into sport, you get red lighting, and the same happens when you put it into Cupra. If you put it into off-road, what happens when you put it into off-road? You get more of an orangey vibe, so I suppose it's meant to be as if you're on sand. Oh, the weather is awful, look at it. Maybe I do need that off-road mode after all. It's a good thing I've got 4-drive system, isn't it? Now, if you're really concerned about such things, on a combined run, Cupra states that you'll get around 33, 34 mpg, and in my experience, well, I think the closest I've got to that was about 28 mpg, and that was when I was driving in normal mode. In regards to CO2 emissions, this emits 193 grams per kilometre of CO2. So for the first year, I believe you'd be paying £895, if I'm not mistaken. If that is wrong, I will of course correct myself with a subtitle. So to conclude, for a car that is Cupra's first exclusive model, I think the Spanish brand should be very happy. So Cupra UK, if you're watching, give yourself a pat on the back. You've done well here. What we have here is a car that offers Golf-R performance, but with arguably, in my opinion, more style, of course more practicality and more kit. So what isn't to like? I think this car is more unique, more bold, more interesting than the Golf-R as well. So if I had the money, I'd be getting one of these. A massive thank you to Cupra UK for loaning me this car for the week, and of course a massive thank you for you guys at home watching. If you have enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.